And there were still fans out there that were thinking that there was a chance that Freddie Andersen could actually be the game one starter in the playoffs.
Craziness.
Now, I think most Leaf fans who have been following the team throughout the season have understood that this is Jack Campbell's net. And just based on his numbers this season, I mean, I said it, 17-3-2 with a 921 save percentage. He has 100% earned this net. Yeah. But with the way that Andersen played in that game and Lepore, I saw some takes on the internet that were just brutal where, people were saying that Andersen looked good. Everything's fine. Like, oh, he looked good. He can easily be the backup heading into the playoffs. I'm fine with that.
Look good on what? In the warm-up?
He looked so uncomfortable in that game.
God.
I don't know how any Leaf fan could be comfortable with the way that Freddie Andersen played in that game against Ottawa.
Terrible.
And now heading into the playoffs with him as the number 2. So just give me your thoughts right now on this goaltending situation, because I think it's just Jack Campbell's net. And I could even see Jack Campbell playing in a back-to-back in the playoffs as well at this point. But just give me your take on the situation.
I don't know what anyone could have seen from that performance to give any type of positivity. And the thing is, bad goals happen. He hadn't played in a while, so I would have let him off the hook, had say something beat him glove side that he maybe should have had, or his look through screens wasn't very strong. That I would get if it happened and we could just say, you know what, he hasn't played in a while, a little rusty. Okay, let's move on and we're okay. But as I touched on, that Connor Brown goal, that's a bad goal to give up, man. And that shows you're just not physically ready. And maybe worst of all, that shows your confidence isn't there. There were even ones that he didn't let in where you could tell he wasn't sure if he had it or he was kind of looking behind him. Yeah, not good. And that one again, the Parker Kelly kid scored first NHL goal. It's one of those ones where I think people say, oh, it's just a fluke, total bullshit goal, 1 in a million. But then I say, but is it a coincidence that happened to Freddie his first game back? No, he probably overcommitted to one side. And even if, it came right to the player, he should have been able to get across. And even if he had to make an uncomfortable save, it still would have been a save. So no, it's not good. And you mentioned how our series against Montreal does in fact have a back-to-back. It's reason for Leafs fans to be a little worried. Should we be full on panicking? Maybe. Because I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to let us off the hook and say no, because at the end of the day, we have had good goaltending. Campbell's been an amazing surprise for us. Stories like this don't happen too often to the Toronto Maple Leafs and their fans. But as far as our backup situation right now, it could be a hell of a lot better. But what I will say, more on the broad scope of this situation, and this is the take I would have on just about every team in the playoffs. If you're pointing to your team and you're saying, wow, if our starting goalie gets hurt, we're fucked. Most teams are fucked. I mean, it's not, I'd like to go back and see Stanley Cup champions and how many games their backup played and how many wins their backup contributed over the course of the 16 wins. I'm sure it's very, very minimal. So if you ask me about the goaltending situation specifically, and even more specifically, the backup situation, yeah, I'm a little nervous. My collar's a little hot. But if that's the thing we're circling as a huge problem for the Toronto Maple Leafs going into the playoffs, or not even a huge problem, just a problem, because I don't think you can call that a huge problem, I think we're okay, is how I would put it. What's your take on Freddie?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Lepore. And something that absolutely drives me nuts about, narratives heading into the playoffs is this whole thing about playoff experience, especially when it comes to goaltending. So, there's a lot of people out there that are saying, Jack Campbell has no playoff experience. Should the Leafs be worried about this? Let me just set the record straight here, okay?
Here
Jack
we go.
Campbell has a .918 save percentage in 85 career NHL games. This is not a guy who just appeared out of nowhere, and this is, he's never played in the NHL before. This is a guy who was a first-round pick, high pedigree guy. He's played almost 100 games as a starter in the NHL. He's had a phenomenal season. Okay, I know it's a short sample, but this entire season, Lepore, is a short sample size.
Fair enough.
So there's no reason to believe that just because, oh my God, the playoffs start, that Jack Campbell's now all of a sudden going to be trash. Guess what? Any good goalie can have a terrible series. Okay.
Yeah.
And one thing that I point to, you look back at that 2019 sweep where Columbus took down the Lightning. Okay. One of the best regular season teams of all time. Andre Vasilevsky, who is objectively a top 3 goalie in the sport, he finished that series with an .856 save percentage.
There you go.
.856 save percentage, and the following season leads the Tampa Bay Lightning to the Stanley Cup. So my whole point is that any goalie could get lit up. Any goalie could get hot. But when I look at what Jack Campbell has done this season, to me, there's no reason to be concerned about his lack of playoff experience. The way that he's playing right now, heading into the postseason with all the confidence that he has, give me that every single day of the week, Lepore.
Yeah. And I would even point to the thing, and I'm going to try to use examples the best I can. People talking about playoff experience for goalies. I would maybe argue the opposite has been more successful. Maybe not more successful, but the opposite has been successful. Just looking back recently, I mean, Jordan Binnington, Cam Ward won one for Carolina.
All the rookie goalies that have won the cup.
Yeah, they seem to do well. Felix, people forget Felix Potvin was a kid when he led the Leafs to the back-to-back conference finals. I'm not going to say Jack Campbell's Patrick Waugh, but that 86 cup that was won by the Montreal Canadiens, Patrick Waugh was a rookie. And I think a lot of time there's a lot of pressure and you can overthink it. You can have an acceptance or an acknowledgement of the magnitude of the situation. And that can be a downfall. You've heard me say on the show a million times, ignorance is bliss. And I'm not saying Jack Campbell has no understanding of the capacity of this situation and which is the Leafs on a playoff run, but lack of experience can sometimes be a good thing. And that sounds weird, but I just gave examples of times when it has been successful. So, I mean, you said, I don't think there's anything worse in sports than using save percentage in a small sample size. Cause like, let's face it, it's not like a goalie has an equal amount of chance on every goal that is scored. There are wide open nets. There are breakaways. There are tips, deflections. I mean, we could go back and look at the goals scored on Vasilevsky in that series and say, oh, he actually played very well. It's just there was a lot of deflections. There was a lot of cross-crease passes, power play. And I'm sure they do it in the offices, but I've always wondered what deep metrics exist for the goalies. Say, okay, this is their save percentage. What is their save percentage with high danger scoring chances? So high danger scoring chances. What is their save percentage if you remove breakaways? What is their save percentage if you remove being shorthanded, to get a better view of that goalie? I know the new one. It's what do they call it? Like saves above expected, or goals allowed below and above expected. Like that's a big one they use now. And I don't know how the deep metrics lie within that stat, but they rank goalies top to bottom, and they'll show their career progression on, where they were playing amazing and where they were playing poorly. And I'm sure in the offices, they're aware of all that and not just saying, oh, his GAA is this and his save percentage is this, so he's really good or he's really bad. But to sum it up, if there's one thing that almost doesn't matter, I'm not saying goaltending doesn't matter in the playoffs, but almost like our previous knowledge of that goalie doesn't matter going into the playoffs.
It's almost irrelevant.
It's
like
irrelevant.
My whole thing with goaltending, like it's just an inherently very volatile position compared to, forward and defense. Like there's a lot of wacky things that could happen to a goalie, especially in a 7-game series, whether you're Andre Vasilevsky, whether you're Jack Campbell, or whether you're friggin' Michael Hutchinson.
Yeah.
So
I'm different too, right? Like I find, and maybe because I'm a little older than a lot of hockey fans on Twitter, where a goal will go in and it's almost now where anytime a goalie gets beaten with a clean shot or a puck goes through him, the reaction is, oh, that was a bad goal. He should have stopped it. And I always say, it's like, to me anyway, let's say a goal beats a goalie underneath the arm. The reaction is, oh, that was a bad goal. And I'll say, the puck's going 100 miles an hour. There was maybe like a whatever square amount of inches, and it just happened to go there. You know what I mean? And if it was 4 inches to the right and it hits him in the arm, or it's the other way and hits him in the chest, would you have said, oh, he was out of position? No, it just would have hit him and you would have thought nothing. And I'm not letting goalies completely off the hook, but I think you know what I'm getting at, where I think we almost overanalyze the position sometimes, and we're almost too hard on goalies. That like you'll always see like those snipes go over the shoulder of the goalie, and they'll say, "Oh, the goalie didn't have the angle." It's like that was a perfect shot. There was maybe like 10 square inches, and the guy put it
sometimes you just got to give credit to the shooter. Right?
Yeah, it just happened to go in that space where the goalie was, and I mean we can talk about this stuff all day long, but I think people understand my point.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think there's anything more to talk about there, Lepore. Like Jack Campbell's the guy. It's his net, and you know what? If he gets lit up at some point and has a bad game, then yeah, I'm sure we're going to see Freddie Anderson. We might see Freddie Anderson in the back-to-back in game 4. So that remains to be seen, but we'll see how this plays out. And the first few games of the series will definitely be very telling